Good morning and welcome to day 5 of this creative explosion. I am constructing and completing a full journal in a week during lockdown with the intention of exploring what it is like to be locked down with self. So this is going to ask me to explore my thought processes and express them creatively. Yesterday I was sitting in my garden and totally entranced by the bird song that was happening in the trees, and realising that our conversations right now, as we Zoom each other or FaceTime each other or call each other, it is similar. It is as if we are calling to each other from our nests. And so, as opposed to yesterday, where I had sort of a different image in each section, I decided to complete this whole signature constructing some birds. And I end up doing that in 2 ways. But before I do anything, as is always the case, I sit down with my notepad and I just write some sentences that are all about what I'm thinking about today. And essentially the sentence that came out, which is, when I am locked down with the birds. So as is always when I'm doing a big project like this, I'm writing down my thought processes and then I just let my creativity explode. I had this odd bit of watercolour paper that was sitting on the side. It was already all torn up into bits and pieces that I've used before. And these Inktense pastels that I never use. And I have to say, after this playtime with these, I think I probably will. So I'm just creating some random bird shapes that I then play with pens and I play with washi tape until I get a few. You know, the thing is, when you're playing, not all of them are going to look and be right for you. But the idea is that when I'm first playing, I'm sort of getting some ideas out. I'm finding my groove. I'm finding which shapes work. Some will, some won't. Some made it into the journal, some didn't. And that's okay, because this is all about playing and experiencing. And it's as important to get things wrong as it is to get things right. And in fact, one of the sentences that came out of this journal experience at the end of it was, "Do the birds think before they sing?" I'm not sure they do. I like to imagine that they just open their mouths and this explosion of noise and chatter and creativity emerges. And that's, I guess, maybe how I like to play too. Inktense pastels are brilliant because you can dilute them with water to let these colours really stand their ground. And then they are completely fixed. They will not reignite anytime you put anything liquid over the top of them. And I think that's a huge bonus for a water-soluble product. So I will definitely be using them again. life has to be an experiment, right? It has to be, because we are constantly living with the unknown. And I think it was really important for me to enjoy using a product today that I've never used before, to play with the unknown. So you can see here I'm taking colour from swatches on the left hand side that I scribbled down, and actually this didn't work, because as soon as I had ignited them with water once, they dried out and then they wouldn't reignite. So it became a learning curve of, did I then have to scribble with them on the paper? And in fact, that's exactly what I ended up doing. So here you can see me start to add washi tape as sort of little wings on these birds. And, you know, this is where I either start liking them or not. And I decide it's okay for me to get rid and discard the ones that I don't like. That those ones didn't make it to the journal. They're still there. I've put them in a little pile. I might take them out one day. But I think that's really important, and it reminded me of how birds build their nest, how they select the very finest twig or the very finest bit of fur. And so I kind of was thinking, I was playing with these birds and I was thinking, well, there's about 5 that I like, but I've got 12 pages to fill in this signature. What am I going to do? And then I decided to have an idea of grabbing some pictures from a magazine that I have been leaving to one side for a long time. It's actually the Good Run catalogue, a clothes shop that I love. And I decided to play with the notion of creating some bird-like characters for my journal. Now, it has to say that during this journal process, I am learning things each day. I really learned yesterday that being overcomplicated with each page meant by the time I got to the last page, I was exhausted. I didn't want to do it. My creativity had kind of gone to sleep. And so doing something this way, where I was needing to repeat exactly the same process on each page, meant that I could give myself a bit of a break, and it meant that my creativity was constant, my energy was constant throughout the whole constructing of this signature. I'm shuffling through some magazines here. I've got the Good Run pages and also some pages from an architecture magazine. I really love using matte collage materials, and you tend to find in architectural magazines the paper, it does tend to be matte. Okay, so every good signature about birds needs to start with a nest, right? And I'd seen this on a YouTube clip ages ago where somebody just used their palette knife to create the nest, and using that flat surface and just sort of adding different textures of browns and creams and using the sharp edge of the blade really enables you to produce this really nice kind of swirled nest pattern. Obviously the acrylic paint on this is quite thick, so I do need to leave it quite some time to dry, and in the meantime I've got the time and energy to construct my other pages. So I was just about to think about how to stick my birds down, and I suddenly remembered the process of birds constructing nests and how they look out for shiny things, and I was remembering these beautiful threads that I've got here from Steph Francis that I absolutely love and never use. They are another one of those things that just sits in the drawer and waits for me to discover it. And so I take a few bits just to wrap around each picture when I put them down. And what I'm doing really is I'm building up an incredibly simple layout to show off these fun little quirky birds that I've done. So if you are arriving at this video before having seen the others in this series, you may want to head over to episode 1 and 2, where I construct the journal and a whole load of collage materials, which become the main elements of these journal pieces as I start building them up. Okay, so do you remember those Good Run pictures, those Good Run magazines? I picked out some characters that were full-bodied, and originally I was going to use those architectural magazine images as the wings for them, and then I suddenly had a brainwave and thought, oh my goodness, I could have them kind of hatching out of eggs. And the textures and the patterns and the shapes of these architectural designs just blend so beautifully with eggs. And of course I've got that lovely tracing paper with the glitter all over it that I can use for the wings. So now what I've got is two continual layouts that I can repeat and play with throughout my signature. That is that I've got those little Inktense drawn birds, and I don't know if you saw earlier on that I used one of my sewn collage balloons, and I just put a little word that was to do with birdie in each one because they reminded me of little nests. So I've got the Inktense birds with a little nest and a word on it, and then on the opposing side of each page I now have a girl coming out of an egg. Now originally I had the idea of just writing the word bird continually on each of my girls, and I may well go back and do this. However, what you're going to see is that I decided to use my stamps at one point to do these birds, and I had no idea that there was a particular little stamp in it that I absolutely discovered a joy of using. Okay, so here we go. I get these stamps out and I obviously type stamp the word bird, and then I realise down the bottom in amongst the numbers there is a little stamp that says number, you know, with the large N and the little O, and I realise how fun that is and that I want that on every single page. So again, I'm sort of building up this consistency. It does remind me again, I'm kind of still playing with this theme of the birds, how there is a consistency to their life, to their seasons, to their way of being. And I'm thinking about how in this time, and again this journal is all about me investigating me really, what I'm learning about self during this time. And what I realise that the birds are teaching me is that there's a simplicity to life. There's a simplicity to working alongside the seasons that I think we've lost. You know, we can turn the heating on and it's summer inside our house even if it's winter outside. We can buy strawberries in the middle of winter. You know, we just have lost that kind of simple rhythm. And doing this signature, this kind of repeat rhythm where I've got one page and then the other, and really they're kind of using exactly the same structure, has been a real joy today. So maybe there's something to be learnt there. Maybe there's something I can take into the world after this lockdown period has finished about re-engaging with simplicity. Sometimes as I'm working, statements just pop into my head, and this one was one of those. She had no idea, but she was saving the world. I guess the birds have no idea that they're teaching me, and those of us who are locked in, shut down, whatever the word needs to be, perhaps we need to give ourselves a little bit of a credit that by staying indoors and by staying safe, we are actually saving the world. So back to this nest, it's finally dry, and I saved some of the architectural scraps that I cut those original big eggs over, and felt it was appropriate to cut one small egg out of each piece and place it in my nest right at the beginning. Because much as we are all separated by our individual nests, I think we are all in this together, are we not? And then I use my Letraset letters down the bottom to write the word safety, and I find the word nest in my dictionary, and I rip it so that it's teeny tiny, and I hug it within that word safety. I literally put the word on top of the word safety, so it's like safety is holding the word nest. So as I said in yesterday's episode, I am going to choose to have at least one page each day which says, what have I learned today? Or what did I learn today? Or what did today teach me? But a little bit of a sort of learning. And I found this lovely poem that I wanted to write in it because it said everything really that I wanted to say. I know not what I seek eternally on earth, in air and sky. I know not what I seek, but is something that I have lost. I know not when or why, and cannot find, although in dreams invisibly it dwells in all I touch and see. Ah, bliss! Never can I recapture you, either on earth, in air or sky, although I know you have reality and are no futile dream. I think for me that's what this page has all been about. That simple moment of sitting in the garden and listening to the birds was bliss. And it's sort of in fleeting moments one captures hold of it, but perhaps only when there's enough space and time, and when there is not so much noise. Perhaps it's only then that we grab hold of it and put it back in our safety nests. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, because then you'll get a little ping every time I put a new video up in this series and ongoing. And I look forward to seeing you really soon. Do head on over to the Facebook page, the description is below, if you'd like to know more about me and what I get up to when I'm not creating a whole journal in a week. I'll see you there soon.